Ready to dive into a world that's way more interesting than it gets credit for. We're talking paper making.
That's right. We're focusing on those unsung heroes, the paper machine operators, going deep into what they actually do.
And we've got some really good stuff from RoleCatcher to help us with. They're a career platform with some insightful material on this.
Yeah, they've really given us a lot to dig into.
It's funny, right? We use paper all the time, every single day. But I bet most of us don't even think about how it's made.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you just take for granted. But when you really think about it, the whole journey from a tree to a piece of paper, it's got to be more complicated than it seems, right?
Definitely more to it than meets the eye.
Right.
So let's break it down. First off, what does a paper machine operator actually do?
Basically, imagine them like a conductor for a giant symphony of machinery. They take this stuff, pulp slurry, which is just wood fibers and water, and they feed it through this incredible machine. This thing spreads it out, drains it, presses it, dries it, and boom, you've got paper.
So far, so good. But our source material mentions precision and technical skill. What's so demanding about the process?
Well, it's all about control. Think about it, you're managing the paper's thickness, the texture, the moisture, and this huge machine is just whirring away. It's not enough to keep it running. These operators need to troubleshoot, got to make sure the quality's consistent, and they're always tweaking things. I even read about one operator on RoleCatcher. They were saying they adjust the machine based on the humidity in the air just to get the paper texture right.
Wow, wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more than just pushing buttons then. This is sounding less like a mundane job and more like you need to be a highly skilled technician.
Exactly. And the career path kind of shows that RoleCatcher does a good job outlining it. Start entry level, maybe assisting, getting the hang of the machines. But as you gain experience, you operate independently, troubleshoot the tough problems, even analyze data to make the whole process better.
You said data analysis. Now that sounds kind of interesting. What kind of data are we even talking about here?
It's all about efficiency, quality control. Paper machine operators, they use data from sensors all over the machine to check things like how thick the paper is, moisture levels, even how fast it's being made. And with that data, they can spot any inconsistencies, make adjustments for better quality, and even predict potential issues before they happen.
That's pretty amazing. So they get this real-time, almost microscopic view of what's happening with this huge piece of equipment just from the data.
Yeah, exactly. And as technology gets more advanced, that whole data analysis side is only going to get bigger.
Seems like a lot of room to grow in this field then.
Oh, definitely. Many paper machine operators, they move on to leading teams, training new people. Some even go into management roles.
So not a dead-end job at all.
Mm.
But let's be honest, that's just one side of it, isn't it? What about the day-to-day, the quality of life? Is this a good career path for that?
That's the big question, right? And the answer is, well, it depends. Luckily, RoleCatcher's got us covered there, too. They give a pretty good rundown of the pros and cons.
Love it when they do that. Got to weigh it all out. So what are we looking at?
On the good side, the earning potential is good. Job stability is usually strong. And if you like hands-on work, seeing the results of what you do, well, there's definitely satisfaction in that.
Those are some pretty big perks, especially these days. But like they say, nothing's perfect, right?
Right.
What about the downsides? What's on the other side of that coin?
Well, our source over at RoleCatcher pointed out a few things. For one, it can be pretty physical. You're on your feet a lot, sometimes for long stretches. And depending on what you're doing, there might be some heavy lifting involved.
Right, makes sense.
Plus, there's the environment. Paper mills, they can be noisy places. And you might be around dust, chemicals, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I imagine safety is a big deal in that kind of setting.
Oh, absolutely. Any good paper mill is going to have super strict safety rules, protective gear, the whole 9 yards. But it's something to consider, for sure, especially if you're not keen on loud places.
Definitely. Anything else on that cons list?
One last thing they mention is shift work, which isn't ideal for everybody. You might end up on evenings, nights, rotating shifts. All depends on how the production's scheduled.
Right, shift work's tough. Can really throw a wrench in your work-life balance.
Exactly, which goes back to what I said earlier. It depends. Really got to think about what matters most to you in a job, what you're willing to compromise on. Maybe you thrive in that hands-on environment, love problem solving, need that job security. Well, then the pros probably win out. But if work-life balance is number one, or you just can't do shift work, might not be the right fit.
Makes you think, you hear all the time about the paperless office, right? Everything going digital.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder about the future of paper, if this is even a viable career long term.
Totally valid concern, especially these days with everything going digital. But what's interesting is that RoleCatcher, they're saying the job outlook for paper machine operators is actually pretty stable.
Oh, really? That's kind of surprising.
Right. Seems kind of counterintuitive, but even with all the digital stuff, the demand for paper products,
Mm.
it's holding steady. You got to think about packaging, cardboard boxes, tissues, all those everyday things. Plus, lots of industries still use a ton of printed materials.
True. I didn't even think about all that. I just had the usual paper in mind, printing at home, stuff like that.
Exactly. Having said that, the industry definitely isn't just sitting back. There's a huge push more than in a lot of other industries to be more sustainable, less waste, think about their environmental impact, that kind of
Oh,
thing.
for sure. Sustainability is such a big topic right now. So, how is the paper industry adapting?
It's a big challenge, and it's definitely impacting paper machine operators directly. First off, lots of mills are making their processes as efficient as possible, trying to use less water, less energy, all that.
Makes sense. So, less waste overall.
Yep, and that data analysis we talked about, that's playing a huge part in making that happen. Then there's research into using more eco-friendly chemicals. Some places are even switching to chlorine-free bleaching, much less environmental impact.
Wow. So, it's not just about making more paper, it's about making it better.
Exactly, and that's why all that continuous learning stuff, it's not just a buzzword in this field. Paper industry is always changing, tech advancements, environmental stuff. It's a lot to keep up with.
So, an operator who's adaptable, eager to learn,
hmm
they're going to be in demand.
Absolutely. This is a really exciting time to be in this field, especially if you're into innovation, sustainability, all that. Speaking of innovation, can we talk about AI for a sec? Because Rollcatcher mentions it, and it's pretty interesting how it's being used in the paper industry, beyond what we already talked about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's where things get really interesting. Tell me more. So, spill the beans. AI in the paper industry. What's it doing?
Well, it's not like robots are taking over the whole process, although that would be pretty wild to see, right?
Straight out of science fiction.
Totally. But it's more subtle than that. Rollcatcher talks about how AI is getting used in all these different stages of paper making. Like, it can actually predict the best settings for the machines and even spot tiny defects in the paper itself.
Sounds incredibly precise.
Oh, it is. Some mills are using these AI-powered vision systems now. They analyze the paper in real time, catch flaws you couldn't even see with the naked eye, and that means they can adjust things right away, less waste, and the quality stays high.
That's nuts. It's like giving the operator superpowers or something.
It kind of is, and it's not just efficiency either. AI is even being used to come up with entirely new types of paper, ones that are even more sustainable. There are companies experimenting with AI algorithms to analyze different fibers, bamboo, hemp, things like that to make paper stronger, longer lasting, but using fewer resources.
Wow. That's really something. So it's funny. We started off thinking paper might become obsolete. Now it seems like tech, especially AI, is making the whole industry even more relevant.
It really shows you, even those industries you think of as traditional, tech's disrupting them, changing the game. And if this is a career you're thinking about, being comfortable with AI, being ready to learn those skills, it's only going to get more important.
It's definitely a fascinating time to be a paper machine operator. That's for sure. All this stuff happening.
hmm
And, got to give a shout out to RoleCatcher again. We've learned so much about this career path just from them. Really shows how valuable this kind of platform can be.
Totally agree. The fact that they use AI for all that, analyzing job descriptions, helping you tailor your resume, even practicing for interviews, that's a game changer.
Like having your own personal career coach right in your pocket.
Exactly. Got to work smarter, right? Technology's there to help.
It really gets you thinking, what other hidden worlds are out there? What other jobs, industries are changing in ways we don't even realize?
Such a good question. And that's what I love about doing this deep dive. We take something that seems ordinary paper, in this case, and we see how complex it really is, the challenges, the cool stuff happening behind the scenes.
You realize everything has a story, even the most everyday things. So listeners, if you're out there, keep that curiosity going. Don't just accept things at face value.
Right. Find something that interests you. Maybe it's how your coffee's made, or how your phone works, or how those millions of packages get delivered every day.
Do some research, read about it, learn something new. You might be surprised at what you find. You might even discover a passion, a career path you never even considered before.
And remember, the more we understand how things work, the better choices we can make. We can actually shape the world around us.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Catch you next time.